Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss.
And I'm Jessica Clemons.
And we are Jerika!
Jerika!
And we are breaking down Daredevil, Season 1, Episode 5, World on Fire, in this Daredevil rewatch series, The Road to Born Again.
We are breaking down all 39 episodes of the 3 seasons of Netflix's Daredevil, and after Fisk got creative with a car door last week, he's now scrambling to pin Anatoly's death on the Man in Black. And if you're listening to me and you're like, Jessica, your voice is weird. I lost my voice coughing in my sleep. I am fine. And I have a Sprite here now. So you will see me drinking it. We open on Claire wiping shower steam from Matt's bathroom mirror to examine her various bruises. It seems like the episodes in this show always take place directly after the previous one. It doesn't give us a break from anything to catch our breath, so that's why everyone's bruised and always limping. So this is Claire the morning after a traumatic encounter with the Russians, which she clearly still working to get through. She stayed the night at Matt's place, but we see some blankets and a pillow folded up on the couch, so it's clear they didn't sleep together. Yet. Matt's being a gentleman by making his battered house guests some breakfast, and Claire asks this.
You have a job or something to get to? Or are you one of those billionaire playboys I'm always hearing about?
This is an obvious nod to Tony Stark, who revealed to the world that he's Iron Man. But it could also be a nod to comics like Batman and Green Arrow, since it's been established that the DC movies and comics exist in the MCU. Matt explains that he's a lawyer with his own practice, so Claire should be happy. I mean, she doesn't know that their practice is broke and has 0 clients yet.
And in this scene, Claire is truly the voice of the audience. She's asking all the questions you always wish people would ask these superheroes. Like, how the hell are you a lawyer by day and a vigilante by night? And hey, how do your abilities work? And to the show's credit, Matt actually gives her an amazing answer.
You just opened one of the cuts on your back.
How do you know that?
I taste copper in the air.
He also explains that he can tell that she doesn't have any broken bones because he can't hear any grinding, which is kind of gross because you gotta imagine this guy's walking by, everybody with broken bones being like, ooh, ew, ew. But he uses all these senses to feel the balance and the direction, the temperature vibrations, stuff he hears and smells. It all equals superpowers. It makes sense to us. And then we get the exchange that's every VFX artist's nightmare.
All of the fragments form a sort of impressionistic painting.
Okay, but what does that look like? Like, what do you actually see?
A world on fire.
Hey, you just said the title of the episode. Yeah, so here we get another art reference, which is an ongoing thing throughout this series. Last episode, we made the point that they're trying to show Matt and Fisk as 2 sides of the same coin, and Fisk got his own art-themed episode, Rabbit in a Snowstorm. Matt's painting is fire, Fisk's is ice. It's also worth noting that Matt's walls are devoid of any art, which will come into play later when he goes to Vanessa's gallery to do some recon, and he pretends he wants to buy art to warm his apartment up.
Matt asks Claire to stay with him until he can figure out a way she can stay safe from the Russians, and they finally kiss, and they kiss on the lips. And you just know the next time we see that couch, it is not gonna have guest blankets and pillows on there. Claire asks Matt another question the audience always wonders, which is why doesn't he just go to the police? And he tells her that wearing a mask and beating on people doesn't exactly mesh with the police policy. But we at least get some semblance that Matt has some sort of long-term goal for all of this when he says this right here.
Maybe I only need to take down one man.
Fisk?
Cut off the head of the snake. Body dies.
Oh, you sweet, naive man. Anyone familiar with the MCU knows another similar saying when it comes to villains. Cut off one head and 2 more shall take its place. That's the Hydra motto. But it can apply here too, given that Fisk is in a league with Gao and Nobu and a whole bunch of other baddies.
Now, Claire says that when the Russians were beating on her, she heard them say the name Vladimir. And we cut to the man himself, who doesn't yet know about his poor headless brother. Cut off one head, and you've got a super pissed off Russian on your hands. Wesley shows up and proves he's a man of many talents.
There are still a few small details we'd like to iron out before... where's your brother?
Dude, his brother's blood was splashed on your face last night. Wesley would make one hell of a poker player. Vlad responds.
Last time I saw him, he was heading to see your employer.
Vladimir now catches himself before saying Fisk's name. Smart move, but this is a lesson he learned too late, since if he had shown Fisk the respect he demanded all along, his brother wouldn't be doing his best Marie Antoinette impression right now. Because you know when Wilson Fisk bashed Marie Antoinette's head in a car tour, they don't tell you the history you learn. It's cool. It's not right. So Vlad's goon comes in to tell him that they found Anatoly, and then they bring him in. Damn. Vlad has got to see his brother without a head. Pretty harsh. In Anatoly's pocket is the Man in Black's mask, playing right into Fisk's plan. Vlad says to put every man he has out on the street to find him and bring him his head. And we cut to the bloody credits, and then cut to Anatoly's blood being hosed off of Fisk's car. And there's like bone and brain in there. It's just gnarly.
I can't do it. Okay. Gao, Nobu, and Leland are there, and you just know Fisk is letting them see this bloody scene as a power play move. He tells them that the Russians are out, and he's the guy who took off Anatoly's head, and they're understandably super pissed that they weren't consulted beforehand, or beforehand, I guess. This whole scene is shot in the handheld shaky cam style, which makes it all more unsettling and disorienting, which is no doubt how Gao, Nobu, and Leland all feel during this conversation.
We all knew that we would need to eliminate the Russians one day. They were too unpredictable.
This from a guy taking heads off with the car door.
Once again, I love Leland's smartass style here. He just tells it like it is, and I think he's a great character for this show. Him and Wesley are great characters for this show. Fisk smooths things over with the promise of more money for all, and we get this ominous line from Nobu.
Remember your promise to me and those I speak for.
Fisk is playing a few different angles, and we'll find out more about this one later on in the series.
Yep, next we get another classic Daredevil one-shot action sequence, and it's just as awesome and as mind-boggling as the hallway scene was. We start on one of Gao's blind drug runners right into the backseat of a Russian taxi cab, and he's singing this hauntingly beautiful song. So this actor is Mang Ai, and he's singing in Mandarin the song Kangding Chinga, also known as Kangding Love Song, a popular traditional folk song from Kangding, China, written by Wu Wenji. The lyrics talk about a lovely maid with a sweet smile that the blacksmith's son comes to court. He came to court her in moonlight. Moonlight shines bright, a courtship in moonlight. And the following scene with Matt fighting these Russians can be considered a bit of a courtship by moonlight. The camera starts inside the cab right next to the singer, and it swivels back and forth, and it's just super cool. Like, you can't even see the camera or the crew or the cameraman in the rearview mirror at all. At one point, it does a full 360-degree turn, and Matt is just standing there like a jump scare in a horror movie, you know, like in, I think it was Paranormal Activity 3, where the camera is pivoting back and forth on the fan, and then it's like right there behind her, and then the sheet drops down, and it's kind of appropriate given that the Russians now see him as some sort of boogeyman, the Baba Yaga, if this were John Wick, cutting off the heads and appearing out of nowhere, and when the camera swivels back around, Matt is now poof, gone. And again, this is just all one long unbroken take. The show really does an awesome job finding some interesting and different ways to shoot things that aren't just your typical action fare, and I hope they continue this trend in the new series, Born Again on Disney+. Matt takes out the Russians one by one, and at one point, this singer is sadly shot, just more bloody collateral damage left behind. Matt questions one of the men as to Vladimir's whereabouts.
Please, I'll tell you what you want. Just don't cut my head off.
So this is Matt's first indication that something is up, but the cops show up and he doesn't get a chance to get more answers, and he does the next logical choice for info.
Hey, you guys hear anything on the news about a Russian getting his head cut off?
In Hell's Kitchen?
This city. Bad enough you get mugged. Now they chop your melon off. What's next? Groping corpses?
Dude, Matt, your office small talk needs a lot of work. It's bad, it's horrible, get it up, not the way that you think. That groping corpse line is definitely a nod to what happens to poor Julie Barnes in season 3, which I talk about a lot, and I love it. I don't love it. I don't like what happens to Julie Barnes. It's just crazy. Okay. Let me go back. Miss Cardenas comes in to get these guys help. She was referred to them by Brett Mahoney's mom, the one Foggy keeps buying cigars to, even though he's not supposed to. The slumlord Armin Tully is trying to drive Miss Cardenas and the other low-income residents out of their apartment complex so he can put up the condos. This is just more evidence of Fisk's plan to clean up the city for the right people, like he mentioned to Vanessa last episode. Karen translates for Miss Cardenas, even though Matt also speaks Spanish, and he tells her,
Do you want to do this?
No, I like listening to your voice.
And that dirty dog. That's exactly what he told Claire last episode. He is running out of lines. Get your game up, sir. Hate you.
That's why you keep ending up here.
Well, maybe I just like the sound of your voice.
Boy, boy. When Matt says this to Karen, even Foggy rolls his eyes inside. I rolled my eyes. Everybody's rolling their eyes. He's seen this before from him, no doubt. Absolutely not.
Matt and Foggy agree to take up the case, and we find out that Tully is repped by Landman and Zach, the law firm where the guys used to intern that also offered them jobs that they turned down so that they could form Nelson and Murdoch. Matt says he'll go to the precinct while Foggy and Karen hit up the law firm. Foggy likens the lawyers to sharks, and Matt says,
Try not to splash too much. It attracts them.
Yeah, splashing around is exactly what Matt is doing at night as a man in black, and it's getting the attention of Fisk in a big bad way. Matt goes to the precinct to ask for files on Armin Tully, but he's also really there to listen for any info bow on the headless Russian. As Matt sits and waits, behind him is a poster that reads, "You don't have to reveal your identity to solve violent crimes." So appropriate for a masked vigilante. I think one of my favorite shots and Easter eggs in this whole season. Matt is also one of the superheroes who doesn't register as an enhanced human after the Sokovia Accords are passed, so he chose not to reveal his identity. And in She-Hulk, our man was very defensive of this whole idea of superhero privacy. Over Brett Mahoney's shoulder, we get our Stan Lee cameo, a framed photo of him as a decorated police officer. Matt hears detectives Blake and Hoffman interrogating Peter, the Russian he beat down the night before. Peter asks them if they know who he works for. The cops don't care about Vladimir and Anatoly, however, which is the first indicator that these guys maybe know more about what's going on in the criminal underworld than they should.
What if I give you another name?
He have to be big.
He'd have to be King freaking Kong.
Big and King, really taking out any ambiguity over who Peter's gonna name. So obviously Peter gives up Fisk and things go south immediately. The detectives pause and then Blake undoes Peter's handcuffs, which is never a good sign. If you're ever in a movie and a cop undoes your handcuffs in a private interrogation room, you're in trouble.
Whose turn is it?
Yours.
I thought I took it for that thing in the bodega.
Oh shit, yeah. All right, wait, come on. No! What's that, Jesus? Oh my God! What's that?
You really shouldn't have said his name.
Yeah, unsurprisingly, these detectives are in Fisk's pocket. And there's this cool shot of Matt standing up to react just a moment before the gun goes off and every cop behind him leaps into action behind him in slow motion. And you just know he has a ton of things going through his mind. He already saw that Fisk can get a jury to tamper with a trial, and now he's starting to get the scope of what he's up against.
Now, a lot of people ask me how I'm able to stay focused researching all these videos, and honestly, it's one of these. Focusing. Activision. So one-shot energy chews are a healthy and convenient energy boosting supplement candy for gamers, athletes, YouTube hosts, everybody really. They make energy chews and focus chews. The focus chews are really my go-to, but it really just depends on what you need. Each energy chew has 75 milligrams of pure caffeine plus 600 milligrams of additional nootropics that give you a serious energy boost that works immediately as you chew. Focus chews now available in limited edition new Rockstars themed packaging. They really help me concentrate and give a natural boost of energy with B, C, D, and E vitamins, plus zinc to help with immune system support and the amino acid tyrosine. Both the energy chews and focus chews are plant-based, naturally sweetened, and designed to give you the energy and focus you need without a bunch of fillers and chemicals. Get started with One Shot Energy today by going to oneshotenergy.com/newrockstars for 10% off your order.
So Karen and Foggy go to Landman and Zach. Such a stupid name. I hate saying that. Ugh. Which is huge and stands in direct contrast to the Nelson and Murdoch office with its old ass office equipment and rats chewing through the phone lines. And when we meet Marcy Stahl, one of Tully's lawyers and also Foggy's ex, who is unfortunately very racist.
And did Mrs. Carnitas tell you? Cardenas.
Yikes. No, thank you.
Carnitas,
Marcy,
come on.
Yeah, you are a horrible person and I hope you burn in hell. Marcy goes all in. My client is doing the city a favor by gentrifying that place and driving current residents out, and tells Foggy to tell his client to take the deal or live in squalor. Also, who uses that? Live in squalor. I hate her. And then Foggy busts out some pretty badass lawyer speak, capped off with this.
So you're gonna see us in court, where I will absolutely dismantle you from the top of your salon blowout to the bottom of your overpriced pumps.
Sure. Go off, Foggy. We cut to Wesley and Fisk in their black SUV, and Fisk is clearly worried as he rubs his notorious cufflinks. Wesley tells Fisk that they are taking statements from both cops who framed Peter during the interrogation. This leaves an even more lengthy list of crimes behind them, something they've been trying to avoid, as Wesley mentioned to Leland in episode 3.
Now clearly Fisk is worried about more people using his name. If you use his name, it's an instant kill, and his goon cops immediately get the job done. But how many people know his name? Even Wesley notes that Vladimir's list of people who know Fisk's name is getting short, mainly because they keep killing them. Because Fisk is an uncultured boy man, Wesley recommends the 75 Brunello de Montalcino, a wine that ranges from $60 to $400. If you remember the last time Vanessa and Fisk went on a date, Fisk admitted that he didn't know what to order and his assistant recommended a pairing, so we can assume that this is their second date for Fisk and Vanessa. Then we cut to Miss Cardena's apartment, and yes, it's very sketchy, but it is home. The lights flicker, a man's unconscious on the floor, and the paint is peeling off the wall. The two shades of green paint don't help. It all looks like the corroding we saw in young Matt's eyes the very first episode when his sight was fading away. Karen and Foggy make their way to Miss Cardena's apartment, and the damage done to this poor woman's apartment is horrible. There's no power, so the only lights illuminating the room are the street lights are outside, a single lantern, and so So many candles. A dangerous amount, you might say. If you thought Jesus was gonna sneak by this episode, think again. Miss Cardenas has a beautifully framed photo of Jesus and a rosary that luckily wasn't damaged by these renovations.
Buttholes. Foggy and Karen agree to help Miss Cardenas fix what they can and even refer back to the electrician they got off in the first episode. We always see the vigilante side of heroism in Daredevil, but what I like about this series, especially this episode, is we also see the street level, non-powered, normal civilian heroism in Karen, Foggy, and Claire. Throughout the MCU, we get a ton of sidekicks that do what they can to support the hero, whether it's Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, or even Iron Man. But in the Netflix series, the best friends or partners are doing the best that they can for the city without or with very minimal direct help from that superhero. Claire wants to help the city, so she became a doctor. Karen is trying to take down her past employer through justice, and Foggy is learning to help those in need, no questions asked. Something we sort of got from Cassie in Quantumania with her activism. I just like seeing these non-powered individuals also thrive as a reflection to what we can do as people in our normal society.
That's right. Like when Superman became a farmer.
Oh, no.
So we're back at the precinct with Christian Blake, the corrupt cop. His phone rings and immediately Daredevil is in action, flipping over the fence so quietly Blake had no idea what happened, then promptly punching him in the face. Blake pulls out the gun just to have his forearm immediately twisted behind him and shoved against the wall. Then we get the good old Daredevil interrogation. Back and forth, Blake denies the truth about the interrogation until Daredevil almost breaks his arm. When Daredevil accuses Blake of killing the Russian in interrogation for using Fisk's name, Blake claps back at Daredevil saying, "So what? I heard you like to kill Russians too. You chopped off Anatoly's head." Daredevil pauses before going along with the fake narrative. Smart move, make him scared. He realizes he can get closer to Fisk if people believe he killed Anatoly. Plus, everyone's afraid of a man who can decapitate someone with a car door. So he asks where to find Vladimir next. Unfortunately, Blake doesn't know and is telling the truth once Daredevil hears his heartbeat. Immediately, Blake insults him and Daredevil knocks him out, kicking him directly in the face, and finds his ringing cell phone lying on the ground. Who is this guy? He's worse than Fisk.
Back with Fisk and Vanessa, we're trying this date thing again. A new restaurant and a new dress for Vanessa. I love this one. It's brown. And in the last episode, she made a remark about chocolate being her downfall and wanting to step out of her comfort zone, to which Fisk agrees because she looks great in chocolate-colored dresses. I'm obsessed with this. Fisk learned from the last time and the entire restaurant is empty, so there should be no interruptions this time. This is when they discuss the importance of honesty. Vanessa makes it clear a big part of this relationship has to build on a foundation of trust. And spoilers, no man has trust. No man ever will, Vanessa. Do not trust men. Fisk truly loves this woman though, and begins to open up, starting easy by telling her the wine they'd like tonight. Then this quiet, delicate scene is immediately darkened when we see Vladimir's hand wringing out a washcloth of blood into a steel bucket, and God could never have prepared me to watch Vladimir clean the blood off his decapitated brother's chest. I hated this scene. He's so gentle and it's so sad. He's lightly stroking the blood away from his brother's tattoos. Then Turk enters, apologizing on behalf of the headless brother on the table in front of them.
Turk tells Vladimir an old friend from Rikers had a black, expensive SUV covered in blood and brains delivered to his chop shop on the edge of Hell's Kitchen. Said the man was big, white, and bald. Vladimir knows it must be Wilson Fisk, but Turk also mentions they reference the man with the black mask. So now to Vladimir, it sounds like Wilson and Daredevil are working together. Now he's paranoid Fisk has been playing them and working against them all along. Like Fisk wanted, a war is about to begin with a 1 million hit on his head. Foggy and Karen are fixing Miss Cardenas' sink, now flushed with water. Huzzah! Baby steps! In excitement, Miss Cardenas cooks him a meal. She cooks at the downstairs apartment where they have power and makes a homemade Guatemalan dish for Karen and Senor Foggy, but also because she's initiating a date between the two. So Karen and Foggy are basically having a little candlelit dinner date. Hopefully in all this love, you didn't forget about Daredevil. Back at his apartment, Claire is going through Blake's old ass Samsung phone, and unfortunately there's nothing on it. The phone is basically empty, no contacts, no numbers, no nothing. It's a burner phone. One text came through from a blocked number with a bunch of locations to allegedly where the Russians are. 47th and 12th. 48th and 9th, 42nd and 10th, 44th and 11th. If you remember back to the first episode where Nobu is going over the blueprints to Hell's Kitchen, we get a glimpse to where the young boy, the Black Sky, would be held, and you can see the numbers on the phone are at least a block away from the area of interest on Nobu's map, so the Russians are perfectly placed around the Black Sky, and when the bombs go off later, it's no surprise Nobu's conquest is safe in the center.
Matt realizes one of the locations is also the Troika restaurant where they took the boy in episode 2. Matt deduces this is where the Russians are, and before he leaves, we have to talk about the two sides of the same coin that is Wilson Fisk and Daredevil. Vanessa had a heart-to-heart with Fisk about honesty and how important it is. Then we see Daredevil and Claire arguing about transparency and assurance. It's like the lines are getting too foggy and Claire's right. Daredevil's becoming the exact person he swore to fight. He's no longer protecting Hell's Kitchen, he's painting it red. His morality is clouded and judgment completely unclear. Once he realizes how deep he's in, it'll be too late. Like, it's already starting off. He's going downhill. Back on Vanessa and Fisk's date, they have some more small talk over wine. She mentions dating a prince with an ascot, to which Kingpin replies, "Ascot? That's a bit much." I can't do his voice. Actually, I naturally sound like his voice right now. Ascot. That's a bit much. And the writers did this as a shout out to Kingpin's older depictions with an ascot. Clearly, it's a great time until Vanessa mentions sleeping with someone in the past and Fisk is completely uncomfortable at the idea, but he can close a man's neck in a door 22 times and that's nothing to shut her over, so I guess whatever, cool. He makes her smile though when he says he wish he had used that same line on her the first time they met, but she's glad that he didn't. Then we begin the honest conversation and Fisk tells Vanessa about Wesley, even referring to him as a friend, and he'd be so happy to hear that. It was so sweet, and I was like, call him, tell him that he's a friend. Then Vanessa asks what business he's in, to which he says rebuilding the city. She says that sounds like an artist, and I say gentrification.
Yeah. He rubs his cufflinks and admits that they belong to his father and he wears them every day to remember him. He tells her he passed when he was a boy, but we know how. Now, this is when Fisk notices Vanessa's purse, citing that there's a gun in it. He can tell from the weight distribution. She remarks it's a 22. It's just so interesting because if you go back and rewatch earlier, there is a moment where Wilson Fisk totally clocks her as she walks up and he can just tell from the muscle tension in her arm that there is a gun in that bag. This man has studied every inch of this woman and knows how she carries herself when there is no weight and when there is weight on it. Creepy, if you ask me. Her chest starts to pick up in speed and you can't really tell if it's out of irritation or fear. She knows who Fisk is and how he perfectly dances around her questions, to which he replies his lasting goal is to repair the city, which is true in his eyes, no matter who he must kill to make sure the city is cleaned up. And with full honesty, Vanessa tells him that she brought a gun because she knows Fisk is dangerous, but wants a reason to stay. And he got to love this woman.
I love her so much. It's a problem.
I mean, look, Melania gets to have her fans too, right? What? This is Marvel Melania. I'm sorry.
This is. And once you said that, it makes complete sense and I can't love her anymore. I take it back. I take it completely back.
He continues to tell her he doesn't like the violence he must commit. He doesn't find the pleasure in the cruelty, but the city needs to die before it can be reborn. And if that's not setting up Daredevil Born Again, I don't know what is. They're calling their shots. None of this scares Vanessa, not a single bit. So he gives Fisk her gun, and now he must protect her by his side. And cue the fireworks, I guess?
It's about to happen. It's about to rumble in a minute. Back with Vladimir, Turk got the news where Fisk is, and he's on his way. Little does he know Daredevil sits above them like a gargoyle on the roof, eavesdropping on their conversation. Every time we see him perched on a roof, I'm like, is he a pigeon? Back with Foggy and Karen flirting over dinner. This candlelit dinner is actually very cute. I'll give him that. It's very sweet. Then Karen asks about Matt's love life, to which Foggy says a lot of dumb stuff about Matt knowing which woman to help because they're hot, which rightfully makes Karen uneasy. Foggy doesn't know that weird sexual tension they had in Matt's apartment, so Karen is learning about Matt the wrong way. Then Karen asks Foggy to touch her face so she knows how Matt sees her, and thank God we cut away from this scene because I hate it. Next, there's a blind man walking in the alley. It's one of Madame Gao's men, the people we saw working in the first episode. Daredevil pops out of nowhere and Spartan kicks this goon in the back against the brick wall. They start throwing punches, and again, it's dark, so Daredevil's winning this fight.
And inside the warehouse, men begin grabbing guns and Vladimir is putting on a bulletproof vest. It's the worst timing. Sergei sees Gao's delivery man and asks, are we waiting on a delivery from Gao? And Madame Gao has sent a suicide bomber to blow up the Russian warehouse. They know instantly and dive through the open door to get away. The explosion blasts the steel door off its hinges, hitting Daredevil, who perfectly holds the man he's fighting in the way of the impact, but it still knocks him out unconscious on the ground. Back with this awkward face touching, another explosion ruptures through Hell's Kitchen, shattering Miss Cardena's glass from the window. It explodes, cutting Miss Cardena's face and knocking Foggy and Karen directly off their chairs. Clearly the locations sent to the cell phone are the locations of the explosions, but also the Russian warehouses. All the dates tonight are ruined. Vanessa watches the flames engulf the city, and Fisk uses the boy being kidnapped in the earlier episodes as an excuse for the explosions, which could be true. He's ultimately doing this for a better future in his own sadistic way, and that future may or may not include Vladimir and his men.
Thank God Daredevil also rises from the ashes like a phoenix, and here's Sergei asking for Vladimir, and he's back in action. A steel door, that doesn't stop him. And Turk, again, not surprisingly, is on Fisk's side, sitting in a car with Wesley, telling him everything he knew. And it feels like we close every single episode with a reveal, and it's Wesley in a car trapping or talking to someone, using them or doing something. Honestly, great character to play. You get a lot of screen time. Wesley admits it takes time to keep Vladimir off balance. They had Turk tell him the man in the black mask was brought up in Fisk's conversation. They were always 10 steps ahead. They had this planned out from the jump. Back with Sergei and Vladimir, exactly what Claire was afraid of begins to happen. Daredevil is caught by the police beating the crap out of Vladimir, and this man's already down. There's no need to beat him up anymore. He is literally crawling. The anger is clearly coming over him, and it gets the best of him. And this is how we close the episode.
That's where we leave it. So thank you so much for watching episode 5 of our Road to Born Again Daredevil rewatch series. We will be back to talk about episode 6, Condemned. In the meantime, subscribe to New Rockstars, subscribe to the Deep Dive channel. I'm doing a Guardians of the Galaxy rewatch currently. It's really fun stuff, and you can support this growing network by grabbing something from our merch store, nerdriot.shop. Subscribe to New Rockstars on YouTube and all social platforms. Follow Jessica at Lulu_Clemons. You can follow me at EA Voss. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. Oh, this Sprite got me going crazy.